And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna and Merry Christmas. Today we are going to do a Christmas feast for your family. You know, Christmas kind of falls right on the heels of Thanksgiving, and that time between Thanksgiving and Christmas is full of parties, is full of get-togethers, is full of all kinds of things. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I get tired of turkey and I get tired of ham. So I'm going to do for you today a beef Christmas dinner. I don't know about your family, but my family, we like beef for Christmas dinner. We always do some kind of fancy looking beef dish. So that's what we're gonna do today. It's gonna look mighty fancy, but it is not hard. It is a beautiful dish to make, and you can serve it to your family. And best of all, it takes just a few minutes and it's very inexpensive. For the beef today, we're gonna use round steak, which is probably the least expensive steak that you can buy. Now, you can use any kind of a steak that you like, but I always just use round steak because, number one, it's inexpensive, and generally speaking, you're feeding a crowd, and it is one of those dishes. This is a dish that needs to simmer a while, so round steak is perfect because that simmer time gives the fibers and the collagen inside what can be a tougher cut of beef time to break down and become meltingly tender for your family. So that's where we're gonna get started, and then we're gonna do lots of other things. Now, on this board, remember, on your wooden cutting board, don't put raw meat. I always use these little plastic boards, and I'm using gloves today just so it's a little easier. I have one piece, I've got 4 total, and I'm gonna thin this out just a little bit. And anytime you're pounding meat, remember, start in the middle and work your way out. And I'm not using the little, on my meat pounder, I've got a side that tenderizes it, but I'm not using that. I'm only using the flat side. What I want to do is create more surface area in the steak because we are going to stuff this steak. So there's one. You see how we just pounded it out to kind of thin, and I've got 3 more to go. I love Christmas. I love everything about Christmas, and it's it's just a holiday that's full of the Spirit of the Lord, and it's Jesus' birthday. And in my house, we have a tradition of baking a birthday cake. We always bake Jesus a birthday cake on Christmas, and we do it usually Christmas Eve, and then Christmas morning, we literally put a candle or 2 in there and we sing happy birthday to Jesus. And it's one of those times of the year that is just so special. So this year, you start making memories with your family. I was reading in a magazine the other day, and I'm gonna talk while I'm pounding, about traditions. What was that family's tradition for Christmas? And I loved reading the stories. I love hearing things that you remember from your childhood. I can remember when I was just a little girl, my mom always made these little wreath cookies, and they were green, and she used cornflakes, and she tinted the coating green, and she formed them into a wreath, and then she would put little dots on them, the little cinnamon dots for the little balls. And I remember that every year. And my mom and my daddy made ornaments out of pine cones for our Christmas tree. And they're hanging on my tree as we speak. And my mom, I wish I'd have brought one. I should have brought a picture of it for you. My mom makes these ornaments out of sequins, and they are beautiful. And she puts pictures on them of the grandchildren and her children. So those are all hanging. The ones that she's made for me and the ornaments that she's made are all hanging on my tree. And it's just a special time of year, and I love Christmas. So you start making your traditions with your family. Now we're done with that. Let's get the filling mixed up. Now, I've got a skillet over here that I'm gonna preheat over like medium-high heat. I'm gonna brown these first, and I'm gonna go ahead and put some oil in. I'm gonna use olive oil, but if you don't have olive oil, you can use canola. It's fine, or vegetable oil. You want, I don't know, about 1/4 cup or so, because remember now, the olive oil is gonna help flavor the sauce too. And it's a heart-healthy oil. I love olive oil. Now, in this bowl, we're gonna use about 1/2 cup. And you can multiply this if you need more. You can, increase the ingredients if you need to. About 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, about a teaspoon of dry rosemary that I've crushed up. If you have fresh rosemary, you can use that, about a tablespoon. Then I've got a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, and then some breadcrumbs, about 2 tablespoons or so of breadcrumbs, and then some garlic. We need to have our garlic. Let me take my gloves off here. We're gonna mince up the garlic, couple of cloves, fresh garlic. You can, use the pre-minced up if you have. A lot of times in the holiday seasons when I do a lot of cooking, I buy anything that will help cut down on my time, including the pre-minced garlic. But for today, I only needed a little bit, so I'm just gonna chop this up. Kind of fine. You can use a garlic press if you want to, but I just use my knife. My boys love to help me cook. They've been on the program with me a lot, and at home they love to help me bake cookies and bake cakes and cooks. And Aaron is my little salad boy. He loves to make salads for me, and he comes up with the prettiest combinations. Just wonderful. So add our garlic to our mixture. If you have some parsley, you could add some fresh parsley in there. That would be fine, but I don't have any today, so I'm not gonna use any. But that's okay. You just want a little bit of a filling. Now here's where you can use your imagination. If you wanted to add some roasted red pepper chopped up in there, you could, or sun-dried tomatoes would be fabulous in this. Chopped up real fine would be delicious. I got rid of my little mat too soon. Now, let's take 1 piece of our meat. Well, let's just go ahead and line them up. And I'll show you how to roll them. And you'll notice one side is skinnier, more tapered than the other side. I would start with the more tapered end. Most beef will be that way because that way you end up with the fatter side, if you will. And it's a little bit easier. Now, before you get started, you will need one of two things. I use kitchen twine, but if you don't have any kitchen twine, you can use toothpicks to secure the filling. So you will need to get that out before you start. And then just take your filling, and now don't overstuff these things, because I promise you that it'll all fall out. Take your filling, and then put some in the middle, and then you see how we're just gonna roll these up? Move that out of my way. Just like that. We're gonna make little rolls. They're called roulades. And then I'm gonna take my string, and I'm going to tie, and let me show you a little hint. Sometimes if you just tie one time, it'll come undone before you can have a chance to finish it. This is holding pretty good actually, but most of the time it doesn't. But if you'll take your string and you'll go around twice, it's called a surgeon's knot, by the way, and then it'll hold until you can get your other knot tied. And I'm gonna cut off the excess string. I think probably 1 piece is good enough on these. If you've got bigger pieces, then you will need, a couple or 3 pieces of string to hold it together. You don't want it to come apart. If you don't have any string, then you could just use toothpicks and go through the little seam right here with a toothpick. And that would be fine too. Whatever you have will work. But I keep kitchen twine in my kitchen because I use it a lot for different things. Meat cooks more evenly if you have it the same shape and thickness throughout. So I use this a lot for, this one's a little fatter, so let's go 2 on him. See what I mean? If you don't tie it, it will come apart. Just like that. And it's okay if you get some of the seasoning on the outside. It's okay. So we're just gonna roll these up. And again, you can add anything you want to the inside. Flavor it up any which way. You could add lemon to it. We're gonna simmer it. We're gonna brown them. And then we're gonna simmer them in some marinara sauce. This is kind of gonna be a Italian dish for your Christmas dinner, or really any time of year. I'm just making it for a Christmas dinner, but you know, you could totally do this. And let me tell you, this is one of those things, if you're like me, oftentimes you don't have enough hours in the day, and you could do this the night before. You could even brown them off the night before, and then put them in your slow cooker on low and let them simmer for about, I don't know, 4 to 6 hours on low, and boom, you've got dinner done when you come home. This is one of those dishes that would just do perfectly in a slow cooker. Maybe your stovetop will be full of other dishes, and you know, oftentimes I find at the holidays I don't have enough eyes on my stove. So anything that I can put in the oven or in a slow cooker, I'm all about doing that on the holidays, because really, unless you have 2 stoves, sometimes it can get full on top. So I like to put things in other cooking methods. I bought one of those little roasters, you know what I'm talking about? The little roaster that you just plug in that holds like up to a 22-pound turkey. I bought one of those a couple of years ago, and I always cook my Thanksgiving turkey in that. It does a beautiful job. And then my oven is free to cook other things. So sometimes, even though you might only use those little appliances once or twice a year, they really do help. One more tie, and then our oil is good and hot. It's smoking. So let me get it off of there for just a minute. I don't want to burn the outside before I have a chance to get it browned. One more little, I'm serving 4. So if you're serving more than that, you know, by all means, just increase the number of pieces of meat that you have. All right, now let's just get these in the oil, and I try to do them seam side down. So that gives that seam a chance to kind of seal on itself. And we're gonna brown these, and I'm just going to salt and pepper the outside of the meat. Now we added a little bit of salt and pepper on the inside, and remember that Parmesan cheese can be salty, so don't add too much. And then I'm gonna put some pepper, and we're gonna brown these. And then we're gonna add our marinara and let it simmer, and that's it. It's so easy and so good. Now, while these are browning, I'm going to we're gonna be making a German chocolate roulade. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? Couldn't be easier. Does take a little time though. In this pot, I'm gonna start the filling. I have 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, and I'm going to turn this to low, and I'm going to let that go for like 20 minutes until it becomes caramelized. Then we're gonna make the filling for our cake. I'm gonna take a quick break, just get this cleaned up, and when I come back, these will be brown. We'll add our sauce, and then we'll get started on some side dishes. I'll be back in just a minute. All right, now look how beautiful and brown our wonderful little beef rolls are. I'm telling you, they smell so good. And they're good and golden brown. And that's what we want. We want that on all sides. And you see all those little bits in the bottom? That's called flavor. Look at that, how beautiful. That's what you want right there. You want that golden brown look. Turn it to low. And then whatever your favorite marinara sauce is. Whatever kind you like. And you can serve this over, you know, spaghetti or linguine or something like that if you wanted to. You could absolutely, totally serve it over a pasta. And I'm adding 2 jars of just jarred marinara. If you want to make your own, go right ahead. It's up to you, whatever you like. And that's it. All you need to do is just make sure that those beef rolls are covered up in that sauce. And we're going to bring this to a simmer, and we're going to let it go for about 30, 45 minutes or so, which is perfect, enough time to get the rest of our dinner cooked. So that's it for the main dish. All it needs to do is simmer. At this point, if you wanted to, again, put it in a crock pot and let it go. Whatever works for you and whatever's easier for you. Now, I've got a skillet here that I have melted about 1/4 cup of butter, and our wonderful sweetened condensed milk is still going. And I'm going to dice up an onion. Now this was a huge onion, so I'm only going to use half of it. But if you've got a smallish onion, then you want, you know, the whole thing. We're going to dice up an onion. We're going to make a pea casserole. I love peas. So this is one of those things that I thought, now how can I make a casserole made with peas that's easy and quick? And so this is what I come up with. It could not be simpler. We're going to saute some vegetables. We've got an onion and a red pepper because it's Christmas and I wanted to use red pepper. If you don't have a red pepper, you don't have to use, or you could use a jarred roasted red pepper if you wanted to. But I'm going to use a red pepper, and I'm going to use the whole pepper because I absolutely love these things. Love them. When they go on sale, I buy them and just eat and eat and eat red peppers. Love them. And do you know that red peppers are one of the healthiest things that you can eat because of the color? Take the ribs out. They're not hot at all. But they're full of antioxidants and vitamin, I believe it's vitamin A, or it might be vitamin C. I'm not a nutritionist, but I do read a lot on these things, and I do know that the darker the color or the brighter the color of the vegetable, the healthier it is. As I tell my children quite often, always cut a pepper, by the way, from the inside out. It's a whole lot easier. Eat the rainbow, and you've heard me tell you that on the program before. And you very much do eat with your eyes. So anytime you can get color into a dish, it's good. So get any, that's why a lot of times I will use the colored peppers. Besides that, a red pepper is a lot sweeter than a green pepper. But if you only have green peppers, put them in there. That's fine. Use a green pepper, whatever your family will eat. We're going to saute these till they're tender. And we're going to mix them with some other wonderful things. Let's get our last little bit here. This is one of those dishes that's easy and a great potluck dish. If you need to take a casserole to somebody's house for dinner or church or whatever that you're doing, this is one of those dishes that would be a great potluck meal dish for you to take anywhere. And everybody's going to love it. And then we're just going to get that sauteing. We're going to cook these until they're, tender. Add a little bit of salt and pepper to it, about a ½ teaspoon of each, which I know seems like a lot for that, but it's going in another dish. Now, let me tell you what we have in this bowl. In this bowl, I have about ½ pound or so of orzo pasta. It's a rice-shaped pasta. We've got that cooked and drained, and I've got ½ cup or so of cream cheese, about an 8-ounce block, excuse me, not ½ cup, but an 8-ounce block of cream cheese that I've brought to room temperature, and about a cup of shredded cheddar. Now what I do is add the drained pasta to the dish while it's hot, and then that melts the cheese, and it makes it a whole lot easier to stir around. And to this, we're gonna add 1 pound bag of peas, frozen peas. It's one of those vegetables that honestly, I think, you know, they're very hard to find fresh, and if you don't get them straight out of the garden, they really don't taste that good. But the frozen ones do, because they're picked and they're processed right when they're fresh and ripe. So I use frozen peas a whole lot. And they really don't need any cooking at this point. They just need to be thawed, because you don't want to add any extra, you know, water to the dish. And I'm telling you, you know what? You really could you could chill this at this point and make a pea salad. And it would be delicious. So there's a 2-for-1 recipe. You really could. You could stop at this point. You could serve it room temperature, or you could chill it and make a salad out of it. And it would be wonderful. Maybe add a little lemon to it. Would be delicious. I'm going to set that to the side for just a minute, because we're going to finish sauteing these. Then we're going to bake this for about 20 minutes. So let's just let those wonderful little onions and peppers go. Let's check our sweetened condensed milk. Now, see how it's just kind of coming up to a simmer? What I'm trying to do here is, if you've ever had German chocolate cake, and you know the filling has got that wonderful, or the icing is that coconut pecan icing, well, we're going to make that homemade, and then we're going to put it inside the cake. And you're just going to use a boxed cake mix. Couldn't be any easier. You know, that's pretty much it. That's what I want. I kind of want it to start reducing and then thin out a little bit. So let's move on to the rest of that part. 4 tablespoons or so of half and half. Couple of teaspoons of vanilla. 2 cups of just coconut, store-bought, sweetened, in the bacon aisle. You know what I'm talking about. Look at that. Yum, yum, yum. Yum. And then some pecans. Now, these pecans need to be chopped a little bit, and I've got onion on my board, and I don't want onion-flavored pecans, so let me put them on another sheet and get a fresh knife. And I'm going to chop those up just a little bit. You can buy chopped up pecans if you want to already, but, you know, these were halves. I don't want them pulverized. I just want them to be a little bit smaller bites. And I'm not one, honestly, I don't toast my nuts. I know a lot of recipes, a lot of cooks do toast their nuts. I personally prefer mine untoasted. But if you like your nuts toasted, then you by all means could put this in the oven and toast them for just a minute, maybe 5 minutes at 350 to get brown. But I really just prefer them untoasted. I like the flavor. Pecan's one of my favorite nuts. That's really about as fine as I want mine. If you want them finer, then you can by all means. And then this just needs to cool. This needs to just cool completely. You could make this ahead. You could do this a day or 2 ahead and then put it in the refrigerator and let it set until you're ready for it. So that's it for the filling on our roulade. We're just going to let that cool, and it'll thicken up, and then it'll be wonderful in our cake. So we're just going to set that to the side and let that cool down for a minute. Let's check our vegetables. I think they're probably good, because they're going to be baking in the oven. I really just want to get them softened, and I think that's fine. I'm going to add this to our pea and cheese mixture. Turn that eye off. And then stir that in. I wish that you could smell this. Oh, I really wish that you could smell this. Smells so good. Now, at this point, I will taste for seasoning, because I don't know that I've got enough salt and pepper, and you really should always do that with your food. You need to taste it for seasoning. So just get a spoonful that has everything in it. It's perfect. That is so good. Love it. Now, I have a baking dish that I have sprayed with just a non-stick cooking spray. And I'm gonna put my pea casserole filling in that dish, and you could totally make this ahead. Wouldn't put the crackers on top until I was ready to bake. But you could do this the day before up to this point and then cover it and refrigerate it and then just bake it off right before you're ready to serve, and it would be fine. Could serve it just like that, to be honest with you. It's delicious. Creamy with all that cheese. And look how pretty. You see what I'm talking about with color? You've got the green, you've got the yellow, you've got the white, and you've got the red from the red pepper. And it looks beautiful. And that matters. It really does matter. And there you go. A wonderful dish. That's wonderful just like that. But we're gonna make it even better. I have a sleeve of just buttered crackers, you know, the kind I'm talking about, whatever kind you like. Just some kind of a buttery cracker. If you don't have and you just have saltines, use those and mix them with a little bit of butter. And I'm gonna crumble some of this on top. I've got my oven preheated to about 350 or so, 325, 350. And we're gonna bake this for about, 20 minutes or so until it's just warmed through, because really everything is cooked. We're just really trying to get the topping browned up a little bit. I'm gonna use the whole sleeve, but you don't have to if you don't want to use that many. You could, by all means, put those in a baggie and crush them up. If you've got kids, my children would so love to put those in a Ziploc baggie and pound away, but they're not with me today, so I'm gonna do it by hand. But if your kids are with you, let them do this. Let them crunch it with their hands. Clean hands